You ever have someone erase you while you're still breathing? That's what it felt like. Not a big fight, not a slammed door or some dramatic movie scene, just silence, clean and cold. 1 minute I was her son, the next I wasn't. And the craziest part? It all started with a Mother's Day text. When people find out I work at a factory, they do this little face twitch thing. You know the one. Half pity, half polite confusion. Like I just told them I do dental work with a spoon. Oh, that's honest work, they say, like they're describing a circus act that's brave but maybe a little sad. I used to laugh it off. Truth is, I like what I do. I know when I clock in, I know what I'm building, and I fix real problems with my hands, not spreadsheets or team morale meetings about synergy or whatever fake word people use when they hate their jobs. When my dad died, I stayed. Turned down a full-ride scholarship to state because my mom was drowning in bills, and Jason, our family's golden child, couldn't possibly delay med school. So, I took a job at the same plant my dad worked at for 30 years. Same smell, same noise, same dented lockers with names carved into them like gravestones. My mom hated it. She hated me for choosing it. "This isn't what your father wanted," she'd say without even looking at me, like the sight of me reminded her of failure. She wanted a son she could brag about during brunch. Instead, she got me. The guy who fixed the roof, replaced the water heater, and quietly paid for my little sister Nadia's senior trip because Mom forgot. I didn't complain. I figured maybe this was just the price of being the steady one, the one who stayed. Then came Mother's Day. I'd just finished a 10-hour shift, still in my work clothes, microwaving leftover pasta when my phone buzzed. Family WhatsApp. I opened it. And there it was, a single message from Mom that read like a stab wrapped in flowers. "Happy Mother's Day dinner, Sunday at 6 p.m. I'm so proud of all my children who've worked hard and succeeded in life. You're what makes being a mom worth it." Then she listed them. Alice, Jason, Laura, Nadia. That was it. No Michael. No love you all. Just gone. And then the next line, like she wanted to twist the knife. "Some choices are too embarrassing to include. This dinner is for my successful children." I thought I read it wrong. I read it again. And again. But it said the same thing every time. My name wasn't there. My existence deleted from a group chat like I was spam. No one said a word. Not Jason. Not Laura. Not even Nadia. My little sister. The one I helped when Mom forgot to pay her fees. No one said, "What the hell, Mom?" Or even, "You forgot Michael." Nothing. Just silence. Jason dropped a thumbs up. Laura wrote, "Can't wait." Nadia sent a dancing flower sticker. That was it. A digital slap followed by cheerful emojis. I sat there staring at my pasta, the steam fading while that chat just burned in my brain. I don't even remember closing the app. I just know I stood up, went to settings, deleted the group, blocked every number, and set the phone down. Then I ate my pasta. Not because I was fine, because I was done expecting to be. People ask me sometimes why I stopped talking to my family. I just say, Mother's Day. They laugh, think I'm joking. I'm not. The day after, I woke up at 5:45 like usual, threw on my uniform, and went to work. Everything looked the same, but everything felt different. The line manager cracked a joke about my hair sticking up, and I fake laughed like nothing happened. I even held the door for Dave from shipping, the guy who still hates me because I once called dibs on the last jelly donut. Life went on, business as usual, except it wasn't, because now there was this clean break inside me. Something had finally snapped, and I didn't even realize how heavy it had all been until it was gone. That night, I deleted every photo on my phone that had any of them in it. Family vacations, birthdays, graduations, gone. Then I went for social media. Facebook, deleted, Instagram, wiped, Snapchat. Honestly, who even uses that anymore? I even unfriended Aunt Carla. She didn't do anything directly, but she didn't say anything either. And when people stay quiet while you're being erased, they're part of it. The weirdest part? No one reached out, not one text, not one call, not even a "we all process things differently" kind of guilt trip from my sister. Just silence. It hit me then. I never really belonged to them. I belonged to their story, the one where every kid made mom look like a success. I stopped fitting that story, and so I got written out. So I started unlearning the need to be chosen. I went to work, came home, and on nights when the house was too quiet, I watched YouTube videos about electrical theory and mechanical systems. I started taking night classes at the local tech college. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'd clock out, change in the locker room, and drive straight to campus. I was the oldest guy there by at least a decade. A few kids thought I was the professor at first. Didn't matter. For the first time, I was doing something that was mine. There were nights I almost broke. Nights I scrolled through my contacts and hovered over Nadia's name. Nights I almost texted, "Did you mean it too?" But I didn't, because I already knew the answer. So instead I wrote. I started journaling, all the things I'd never said out loud. Stuff like, "Love shouldn't depend on your LinkedIn bio," or "You're not broken. They just wanted a different mold." I kept that notebook inside. An old cigar box my dad left me, the one that still smells faintly like motor oil and aftershave. The only piece of him they didn't throw out. That box became sacred. Proof that someone once saw value in who I was. Proof that I didn't have to become anyone else to deserve love. Weeks turned into months. And little by little, something shifted. I started laughing again. Not fake laughs, the real kind. Usually at dumb stuff like someone microwaving fish in the break room or me dropping a wrench and pretending my foot didn't hurt because the intern was watching. I was healing. Quietly. Without apology. Without their approval. And then one morning, something unexpected happened. My supervisor pulled me aside and said, "Mike, you ever thought about taking over a line?" I blinked. "You serious?" He nodded. "You've been running half of it anyway. Might as well get paid for it." I didn't celebrate, didn't post about it, didn't even tell my mom. Hell, I didn't even have her number anymore. But I went home that night, poured myself a cup of coffee, and looked at the reflection in the dark kitchen window. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the failure in the family. I felt like someone finally worth being, and that feeling, it didn't come from her. It came from me. About 6 months after that Mother's Day, life had finally started feeling normal again. Not perfect, not exciting, just steady. I woke up, worked my shift, studied at night, and spent weekends fixing up my old truck. I liked the rhythm of it. Predictable, safe. I'd even stopped checking social media completely. I told myself I didn't care what my family was doing. And for a while, I really didn't. Then one morning, I was late for work, rushing out the door with my lunch half-packed, when I opened my front door and froze. There was a small box sitting on my porch. No return address. Just my name, written in my mom's handwriting. I almost kicked it off the porch. My heart started racing like I'd seen a ghost. I hadn't heard from her in over half a year, not a word. And suddenly, there she was, in cardboard form, sitting right outside my door. I brought it inside, set it on the counter, and just stared at it. For a solid hour, I didn't open it. I kept asking myself, why now? What could she possibly want? Finally, curiosity won. I cut the tape, opened the flaps, and inside was a framed photo. It was old. Me, maybe 8 years old, sitting on my dad's shoulders at the county fair. I'm laughing, holding a balloon, and he's wearing that same faded baseball cap he always wore. I remembered that day. He'd just won me that balloon after spending $10 on a stupid ring toss game. Mom had taken the picture. Underneath the frame, there was a folded note. Not an apology. Not even a hi. Just 3 words. You're still mine. I don't know what I felt first. Anger or confusion. Maybe both. I mean, what kind of person cuts their kid out of the family, then sends a box like that months later like nothing happened? It wasn't a peace offering. It felt like control. Like a reminder that she could still reach into my life whenever she felt like it. I put the frame face down on the table and left for work. Didn't take it with me, didn't throw it out either. I just couldn't. That night, I told myself I wouldn't think about it. I showered, made dinner, tried to focus on my class notes. But every time I looked at the counter, that box was sitting there like a question I couldn't answer. By midnight, I cracked. I picked up the note again and turned it over. On the back, in smaller handwriting, she'd written another line. Call me before Sunday. I didn't. Sunday came and went. Nothing happened. No knock on the door. No follow-up message. No more boxes. I thought that was the end of it. But the next week, when I stopped for gas after my night class, I noticed something strange. A gray sedan parked 2 spots away. Engine running. Headlights off. I remember glancing over and catching a glimpse of someone in the driver's seat. But when I looked again, they turned their face away. I brushed it off, probably someone waiting for their partner inside. But when I drove out, that same car pulled out too. Followed me for 3 turns before turning down another street. I told myself I was being paranoid. Until it happened again. And again. After the 3rd time, I started paying attention to plates, cars, everything. I never got a clear look, but I knew. You can feel when something's not random. So one night, I took the long way home. 20 minutes of back roads, 3 fake turns, 1 detour through a grocery store parking lot. And sure enough, that same gray sedan kept showing up behind me. That's when I snapped. I pulled into a gas station, parked, and just sat there staring in my rearview mirror until the driver had no choice but to show themselves. The door opened slowly, and there she was. My mom. Hair pulled back, face pale, eyes tired in a way I'd never seen before. She walked up to my window and tapped the glass. I didn't roll it down. She mouthed, "Please." For a second, I almost gave in. The kid in me still wanted to believe that maybe she was sorry, that maybe she'd realized what she'd done. But then I saw it, the same look she always gave when she wanted something. That mix of pity and control. The one that made every apology sound like a guilt trip. I cracked the window just enough to speak. "What do you want, Mom?" She hesitated, then said softly, "You look tired." I laughed. "You followed me for 20 minutes to tell me that?" Her face fell. "You didn't answer my note." Because I didn't have anything to say. She sighed like I was the one being unreasonable. "You've changed." "Yeah," I said. "That's kind of the point." For a few seconds, neither of us said anything. She glanced toward the gas pump, then back at me. I wanted to see you. That's all." "You saw me," I said. "You can go now." Her lip trembled a little, but I didn't open the door. I didn't even blink. After a moment, she just nodded, turned around, and walked back to her car. I waited until she drove off before I moved. My hands were shaking the whole way home. I parked, went inside, and finally took that photo out of the box. I looked at it one last time, then slid it into the bottom drawer of my desk. I didn't throw it out, but I didn't hang it up either. That night, I didn't sleep. I just kept thinking about her following me like that, how her voice sounded, how she looked smaller somehow, like life had been rough on her too. And I hated that a part of me still felt bad for her. Because that's what people like her count on, you feeling bad enough to let them back in. The next few weeks were quiet. No messages, no visits. I focused on work, on my classes, and on keeping my head clear. I even started jogging in the mornings again, something I hadn't done since high school. The air felt cleaner somehow, but peace doesn't last long when your past still knows where you live. One evening, I came home from class and saw a single envelope taped to my front door. Inside was a church pamphlet for the power of forgiveness. On the back, in her handwriting, it said, "You can't run forever. Michael." I stood there on my porch, holding that paper, and something inside me just broke. Not from sadness this time. From anger. Because I'd spent my whole life trying to earn a kind of love that was never going to exist. And in that moment, I decided I wasn't going to be the quiet son anymore. The one who stayed silent and swallowed everything. If she wanted a conversation, she was going to get one. But it wouldn't be the one she expected. I didn't go looking for her right away. I sat with that anger for a while. Let it breathe, let it sharpen. I kept that church pamphlet on my counter for a full week, just staring at it every morning like it was some kind of dare. You can't run forever. She was right. I couldn't. But not in the way she meant. By Friday, I'd made up my mind. I called Nadia. She didn't pick up the first time. Or the second. On the third call, she finally answered, her voice quiet and unsure. "Hello?" "It's me," I said, silence. Then softly, "Michael?" Yeah, she didn't know what to say. I didn't either. So we sat in that awkward, heavy silence for a while until I finally said, "I need to talk to Mom." She sighed. "Mike, maybe I'm not asking for your approval," I cut in. "Just tell me where she lives now." "I know she sold the old house," she hesitated. "She's been staying with Jason since the stroke." That stopped me cold. "What stroke?" She didn't tell you? I almost laughed. No, she didn't send that update in the "You're not my son" group chat. Nadia didn't laugh. It happened 2 months ago. She's okay now, mostly. Just weak on one side. For a second, I didn't know how to feel. Part of me felt that old instinct to care, to drop everything and rush over. But another part, the tired, older part, remembered every silence, every public humiliation, every urine embarrassment disguised as advice. Still, I said, "Text me the address." When I pulled up to Jason's place that evening, I almost turned around twice before I parked. It was one of those shiny new houses with the perfectly trimmed bushes and fake stone driveway, exactly the kind of place Mom always bragged about. It felt wrong just standing there. Jason opened the door before I even knocked. "Wow," he said, half smiling. "Didn't think I'd see you here," I shrugged. "Didn't think I'd come." He looked me up and down like he was trying to decide whether to hug me or call security. Finally, he said, "She's in the den." I walked in, and there she was, sitting in an armchair near the window, a blanket over her lap. Smaller, thinner, hair gray around the edges. When she looked up for a second, I saw my mom again. Not the proud woman who erased me, but the one who used to pack my lunch and remind me to wear a jacket. Then she smiled that familiar, too sweet smile, and the spell broke. "You came," she said. I did. Her eyes darted to the envelope in my hand. "I guess you got my message." "I did," I said again. Then I sat across from her. "So what do you want, Mom?" She blinked. "What do you mean, what do I want?" "I wanted to see my son." I leaned forward. "You've had 2 years to do that." "You didn't, so why now?" She hesitated. Her hands fidgeted with the blanket. "I made mistakes." "Which ones?" Her eyes flicked to Jason, who was standing by the doorway pretending not to listen. "Could we have some privacy?" she said. He nodded and stepped out, closing the door. For a moment, the only sound was the clock ticking on the wall. Then she said quietly, "You were never supposed to know." "Know what?" She looked down at her hands. "When your father died, She stopped, swallowed hard, then tried again. "We were broke, Michael. More than you ever knew. The insurance money wasn't enough. The house was underwater. Jason's tuition was due. I made a deal." I frowned. "A deal?" She nodded. "With your Uncle Frank. He offered to cover the debts, but only if I let him use Dad's name to get a loan through the company. It wasn't legal, but I was desperate. I thought I'd fix it later. I could feel my stomach drop. "You forged Dad's signature?" She didn't answer. "Mom." She looked up, eyes wet. "When the factory changed management, they found out. There was an investigation." I panicked. "I told them you had access to the documents, that you might have done it trying to help." I stared at her, frozen. "You what?" Her voice cracked. "It was supposed to buy me time. I thought they'd just question you, nothing more. But then your name went on some report, and I couldn't." I stood up, my pulse pounding in my ears. "You blamed me? You let them think I forged those documents?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I didn't think they'd fire you." I took a step back. "You're the reason I lost that first job." She nodded weakly. "I'm sorry." "Sorry?" I laughed, cold, sharp, bitter. "Do you know what that did to me? I spent months thinking I was just unlucky. I thought they let me go because I didn't have the right connections. You let me believe that. I was trying to protect your siblings," she whispered. "Jason's future?" "Jason's future," I repeated, shaking my head. "It always comes back to that, doesn't it? You ruined mine so his could shine." She tried to reach for my hand, but I stepped back. "Michael, please. You don't understand what it's like to be a mother." "Don't," I cut her off. "Don't use that word like it excuses everything. You don't get to erase me, then call yourself a mother again." She looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. Her shoulders sagged. "I thought I was doing what was best for everyone." "Yeah," I said. "Everyone but me." We sat in silence after that. The kind of silence that feels like standing in a graveyard, quiet but full of ghosts. Finally, she whispered, "I know I can't fix it, but I don't want to die with my son hating me." I stared at her, that small, fragile woman who once terrified me. For the first time, I didn't feel anger. I didn't even feel hate. Just distance, like I was looking at a stranger who happened to share my face. "You're right," I said quietly. "You can't fix it. But I don't hate you, Mom. I just don't know you anymore." I stood up to leave. She called after me, voice trembling. "Michael, please wait. You're still my son." I paused at the doorway, turned back just long enough to say, "You gave that up the day you erased me." Then I walked out. Jason tried to say something as I passed, but I didn't stop. I got in my truck, closed the door, and just sat there for a minute, breathing. I should have felt lighter. I should have felt free. But all I felt was hollow. That night, I drove to the lake near our old house, sat on the hood of my truck, listening to the water move under the moonlight. And for the first time since all this started, I cried. Not for her, not even for what I lost, but for the kid I used to be. The one who thought love was something you had to earn. That's when it hit me. She hadn't erased me. She'd only erased the version of me that existed to please her. And maybe that was the best thing she ever did, because now I could finally start over. For a few weeks after that night, I didn't tell anyone what happened. Not even Nadia, not my coworkers, nobody. I just went quiet. I went to work, came home, studied, and kept moving like nothing had changed. But everything had. It's funny. When you finally say out loud the thing you've been afraid to admit your whole life, the world doesn't explode. It just shifts. Quietly, I started noticing things I hadn't before. The smell of oil and metal at work didn't feel heavy anymore. The sound of the machines didn't drown me out. I wasn't angry every time I saw a family eating together at the diner across from the plant. For once, I didn't feel less than. One Friday, I stayed late at work fixing a line motor that had been glitching for weeks. When it finally kicked back to life, my supervisor clapped me on the back and said, "You're wasted on this floor, man. You should be training people." It was meant as a joke, but something about it stuck. That weekend, I looked up certification programs for industrial training. Nothing fancy, just a 2-year course at the same tech college I'd been attending. It meant more hours, less sleep, more balancing act, but I wanted it. Not because I needed to prove something to anyone, because I finally liked the person I was building. I filled out the form Sunday night. Didn't even hesitate. Around that same time, Nadia texted me out of nowhere. First time in over a year. "Nadia, I heard you talk to Mom." Me, yeah, Nadia. "She's not doing great. The doctor says she might need a caregiver soon." Me. "Okay." Nadia. "She keeps asking if you'll call." I stared at that message for a long time. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I typed, "She already did enough talking." And I left it at that. But even after I sent it, I couldn't shake this weird feeling. It wasn't guilt exactly. It was more like grief that had nowhere to go. I kept wondering who she used to be, before the pride, before the manipulation, before everything fell apart. Maybe she was just scared. Maybe she was trying to survive in the only way she knew how. A few nights later, I found myself driving without thinking, just following the road until I ended up near our old neighborhood. The house had been sold, but I parked across the street anyway. The porch light was on. New curtains, new owners, same tree in the front yard. I used to climb that tree as a kid, scrape my knees, and come running to Mom crying. She'd blow on the cut and stick a Band-Aid on it like she was fixing the world. Standing there in the dark, I realized she wasn't always like the woman who erased me. She became that way slowly, little by little, in the way metal rusts. And I couldn't hate her for that anymore. But I also couldn't go back. I got in the truck and drove home. Didn't cry this time. Didn't feel hollow either, just calm. That calm lasted about a month, until one morning I came home from my shift to find another letter in my mailbox. No name, just a return address I didn't recognize. Inside was a small card, handwritten. "Michael, if you want the truth, meet me at the old diner. 7 p.m. Sunday. Come alone." And I stared at it for a long time. Nadia, the old diner. That was our spot. When we were kids, Dad used to take us there after church. Same red booths, same jukebox that never worked. I almost threw the note out. I didn't want to reopen wounds that had just started to heal. But something about that phrase, "if you want the truth," got under my skin. What truth? What could possibly be left to say? Sunday came. I almost didn't go. I sat in my truck outside the diner for 15 minutes, just staring at the sign flickering in the rain. Then I went in. Nadia was already there, sitting in a booth near the back. She looked older somehow. Not in a bad way, just like life had finally caught up to her, too. She smiled softly when she saw me. "You came." "Yeah, I said, sliding into the seat across from her. So what's this about? She hesitated. I need to tell you something about what Mom did. I felt my chest tighten. I already know. She told me everything. Nadia shook her head. No, Michael. You don't. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small brown envelope. Inside were a few folded documents, copies of letters, old loan papers, signatures. Mom didn't forge Dad's signature, she said quietly. She forged yours, I froze. What? She needed someone to blame if it went bad. You were 18. She figured no one would question it if it looked like you tried to help her. I couldn't even process it. My name was right there, my handwriting, my signature, except it wasn't mine. It was hers, Nadia went on, her voice barely above a whisper. She wanted to tell you before she got sick. I told her to. I begged her to. But she was scared you'd never forgive her. I leaned back, numb. And you? You knew? She nodded, tears welling up. I found out after Dad's funeral. I didn't know what to do. I thought if I told you, it would destroy everything. I was a coward. For a long time, I just sat there staring at the papers. I wanted to be angry, but I couldn't even find the energy. It was like someone had pulled the plug and all the emotion drained out. Why now? I asked quietly. She looked at me with those same eyes we both got from Dad. Tired, honest. Because she's dying, Michael. And because I couldn't let her take the full truth with her. The room went silent. Just the hum of the lights and the sound of rain hitting the window. She's in hospice now, Nadia said softly. She asked for you. I didn't answer right away. I just stared out the window, watching the rain slide down the glass. There was this ache in my chest. Not love, not hate, something in between. When I finally spoke, my voice was steady. She spent years pretending I didn't exist. I finally learned how to live with that. Now she wants me to pretend none of it happened? She doesn't want forgiveness, Nadia said. She just wants to see you. One last time, I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just sat there until my coffee went cold. Then I stood up, left a 20 on the table, and walked out into the rain. Driving home, my mind kept replaying one line from that note. You're still mine. Back then, it sounded like control. But now, it sounded like regret. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, I needed to see her. Not for her. For me. I didn't go right away. That night after seeing Nadia, I sat in my truck outside my house for hours, watching the rain pool on the windshield, thinking about everything I'd spent years trying not to think about. Forgiveness used to sound like weakness to me. Like letting someone get away with what they did. But the older I got, the more I realized. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you. It's about deciding you're done carrying what they put on you. So the next morning, I called the hospice number Nadia had given me. A nurse answered. When I said my name, she paused. Oh, she said softly. She talks about you all the time. That hit harder than I expected. I asked if I could visit. She said yes. It was a small facility, quiet and clean, tucked between a row of oak trees on the edge of town. I brought nothing with me, no flowers, no gift. Just my hands in my pockets and my heart trying not to fall apart. When I walked into her room, she was asleep. The TV was on, playing one of those old black and white shows she used to love. I stood there for a long minute, just watching her breathe. She looked smaller than I remembered. The kind of small that comes from letting go of too many things too late. Her hair was gray now, her skin pale against the white sheets. And for the first time in years, I didn't see the woman who hurt me. I saw the woman who used to sing while washing dishes. The one who made pancakes shaped like dinosaurs when I was 6. I sat down in the chair beside her bed. Didn't say anything. Didn't know what to say. Eventually, her eyes fluttered open. It took her a second to focus, but when she did, she smiled. Michael. Just my name. Soft. Almost a whisper. Hey, I said quietly. She reached for my hand, and this time I didn't pull away. Her fingers were cold, but she held on tight. I didn't think you'd come, she said. I almost didn't. I know. For a while, we just sat there. The clock ticked, the rain tapped the window, and neither of us tried to fill the silence. Then she said, I'm sorry for what I did to you. I looked at her. Which part? All of it, she whispered. The lies. The pride. Pretending you didn't matter. You were the one who stayed. You were always the one who stayed. Her voice broke. I was ashamed of what I'd done. So I punished you for it. I felt tears sting my eyes. Not from anger anymore, from understanding. I wanted to tell her it was okay, but it wasn't. And that's what made it honest. You hurt me, I said softly. You made me believe I wasn't enough. And I spent years trying to prove I was. I know. But I'm done trying now. She nodded slowly. Good. There was this long pause, and then she said something I didn't expect. Your father would be proud of you. That undid me. I hadn't heard those words in years. Not once since he died. My chest tightened, and I felt this quiet, trembling release, like all the pressure I'd been carrying finally let go. We sat there until she fell asleep again. I didn't leave right away. I just kept holding her hand, listening to her breathing, watching the rain streak down the window. When I finally stood to go, I whispered, I forgive you. I didn't know if she heard me. But maybe it didn't matter. Maybe forgiveness isn't about hearing it. Maybe it's about saying it out loud so you can finally walk away lighter. I left the hospice around sunset. The sky was this deep orange fading into gray. I drove to the lake again, the same place I'd gone after confronting her the first time. The air smelled like wet pine and fresh earth. I sat on the hood of my truck, looked out at the water, and thought about everything that had happened. The silence, the betrayal, the truth. And somehow, for the first time, none of it hurt anymore. It just was. That night, I went home, opened the cigar box on my shelf, and took out that old photo of me on Dad's shoulders. The one she'd sent months ago in that box. I cleaned the dust off the glass and hung it on the wall, not to remember the pain, but to remember that even broken stories can still have meaning. I still work at the factory. Still fixing machines, still teaching new hires, still drinking too much coffee. But now when people ask what I do, I don't flinch. I just smile and say, I build things that last. And maybe that's what this whole story was about. Learning how to build something that lasts inside yourself, even when the people who made you couldn't.